Have you ever walked away from a relationship believing that if you had just been better, they would have loved you differently? Maybe kinder, smarter, more attractive, less emotional, less needy, more successful or patient. I think almost all of us have told ourselves a version of that story. Today, I want to gently challenge it. We often tend to personalize what isn't always personal. When someone doesn't give us what we deeply need, our minds often make a leap. They didn't give it to me, so there must be something wrong with me. Did you hear that jump? Someone's behavior becomes a conclusion about your identity. But those are two very different things. So let's slow that down. Capacity is different from worth. Imagine someone with a broken arm. You ask them to help you move a heavy couch. They can't. What does that tell you? Does it tell you you didn't deserve help with the couch? No. Does it tell you you could have asked differently? Maybe with a different tone or a different facial expression, or maybe had your hair done up differently that day and they might have said yes? No, it tells you something about their capacity, not your value. Emotional capacity works the exact same way. Some people have tremendous capacity for vulnerability, and some don't. Some know how to repair, some don't. Some can stay present in conflict, some become overwhelmed. Their capacity tells you something important, but it doesn't tell you anything about your worth. And we confuse those two all the time. This is especially true if you've spent your life feeling unseen. Someone else doesn't listen. Someone can't validate you. They don't care about how you're feeling. Maybe they avoid difficult conversations. They withdraw when you need closeness. It's so easy to conclude, I'm too much, and I'm also not enough. I'm hard to love. I didn't do enough. I didn't manage the situation well enough. But what if they simply couldn't offer what they didn't have? Sit with that. It's a very different story for you to tell yourself. Their limitations have nothing to do with your worth. They never did. Now, the first time this shows up in our lives is usually when we're young and vulnerable and dependent on our caregivers. We don't have the capacity in that moment to think, maybe my mom or my dad just doesn't have the ability to handle me the way that I need right now. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're hungry, maybe they're just limited by their own attachment style. No, instead we think, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve what I need. And then we go about crafting a way to feel heard. Those are our adaptations. Our anxiety of not having our needs met moves us into action, either a fight-flight strategy or a shutdown collapse strategy. Maybe somewhere along the way we're really good at talking and connecting, so we choose fawn. Either way, they're all things we put on to solve a problem that we had because we couldn't care for our own needs, and the person tasked with caring for our needs also couldn't. Instead of recognizing their limitation and capacity, we take it as an interpretation of our value, and that becomes part of our identity. And it's simply not true. And then we spend the rest of our lives reliving that dynamic where we continually find people who treat us that way, whether it's because we're drawn to those people or we recreate that result based on the narratives in our head. Doesn't matter, because often the result winds up being the same for us, which is constantly living a life that validates the story that our attachment system and experience are telling us about ourselves. Remember, their limitations are not your identity. I want to be really careful in this space. This lesson isn't about blaming other people. Sometimes we genuinely make mistakes. We need to apologize. We need to be accountable. We need to grow. But growth begins with accurate information. Before asking, what's wrong with me, based on someone else's response to you, ask, what was actually happening here? What belonged to me? What belonged to them? What was about capacity? What was about compatibility? That's discernment. This allows us to look at our interactions with other people from a place of discernment instead of taking it personally as a commentary on what we're worth. And discernment protects dignity. If you're taking on responsibility for someone else's lack of capacity, then you're feeling like you're lacking in some way that you really aren't. You're asking someone for something they can't give you. It's causing you to bang your head against a wall and probably feel a little bit crazy, like something is wrong with you for even asking it. Over time, it erodes your dignity, it erodes your sense of self-trust, your capacity to understand reality and to validate your needs and make sure that they're met in loving ways. The capacity to take that moment and discern what was yours, what was theirs. Protects that dignity, protects that trust in yourself, that trust in your reality and your experience and your emotions. Isn't it interesting, that contrast, that a moment of suspending certainty and becoming curious helps you develop self-trust? In a sense, you're taking a moment to question yourself, to question your intentions, your experiences, reality. And in doing so, we restore that trust in ourselves when we regulate and do so from a place of discernment. The cost of confusing someone else's capacity with your self-worth is high. When we confuse the two, we chase unavailable people. We overfunction. We abandon boundaries. We overexplain. We try harder to earn something that another person may not currently have the capacity to give us. Have you lived this before? I have. It's exhausting. It's heartbreaking. It often feels like death by a million cuts. Sometimes it's more like stab wounds, but over time, it erodes your sense of self-worth entirely. So the next time someone can't give you something you deeply need, instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what might be limiting their capacity right now? Could be fear, immaturity, unresolved pain, stress, incompatibility. Maybe it's simply that they aren't able to meet this need right now or at all. Whatever that answer is, it does not automatically become evidence of your value. If you remember one thing today, another person's capacity is not a measure of your worth. You can grieve what someone else couldn't give you without concluding you never deserved it. Stop using another person's capacity or lack thereof as evidence about your value. And stop asking for people to give you that which they don't possess. Come to an acceptance of other people's limitations and learn what to do next about them in discernment. You are worthy of honesty even when someone can't be honest. You're worthy of love even when someone can't love well. You are worthy of being seen even when someone doesn't know how to see you. The people around you will tell you many things. They'll tell you about their fears, their history, their wounds, their capacity. But don't confuse those messages with the truth about who you are. And when people tell you who they are, believe them.